Thank you so much for coming out tonight. It's our last arch of the semester, which is really crazy to think about. Just a few reminders. We have a Bible drive going on at the moment until December 6th. So if you have any Bibles laying around, donate them. And then additionally, retreat leadership applications will be coming out on Monday, so be on the lookout for those. And tonight, to lighten up the mood, we're going to play charades again. I know it was very funny the last time, so we'll see how today goes. So what we did last time was that we had two volunteers come up, and you kind of battling each other. The first person to 5, and then we'll rotate to another 2 people. And then the rest of the audience, per se, you guys will be acting out the charades, and the 2 that are up here, if you want to skip, you can just both say skip if the word is too hard. So do I have any volunteers? Ryan? Who would like to battle Ryan? Oh, wait. Yes. Alrighty. everyone for participating. It was very funny to watch the madness. But we're going to go into our talk. Tracy and Alicia are going to be giving a talk on mental health. So give it for them.
Well, hi, I'm Tracy, and I'm a counselor at Holy Family Counseling Center, and this is Alicia, and she is also a therapist there. And we both see clients at the Swanee office, and I also see clients here in Athens, and Alicia actually sees a lot of clients at the Georgia Tech Catholic Center down there too. So tonight we're here to talk a little bit about stress and anxiety, and it's a topic I'm sure you already know what stress and anxiety are. So I guess we're also going to talk a little bit about things that you can do when you are feeling overstressed and too much anxiety. So Alethea is going to get us started.
Well, leading up to this presentation, I have felt incredibly anxious since Monday. So it's been a nice refresher as to what it's like to have it. Because anxiety is thrown around as a blanket term. It's a general feeling of worry. It's a nervousness or an uneasiness. Anxiety is a response to an upcoming event where we don't know the outcome. Now I'm going to say that again. Anxiety is a response to an upcoming event where we don't know the outcome. Everyone experiences anxiety, and we all deal with it differently. We all experience it in varying forms because we don't know if there is danger and if that danger is real. This is a very common thing. Anxiety can be a good thing, believe it or not. Let's say you are, like me, preparing to give a presentation, or you have finals coming up and you're having to study. That anxiety helps you get over the hump. It gives you something to work towards because you want to bring certainty into that uncertainty in your life. Anxiety is often perceived as negative, but it can be a very positive thing as well. There are times where anxiety can become very serious, and these can turn into anxiety attacks. This is when the manageability of our anxiety and the thinking, the crazy thought process down these weird rabbit holes becomes too much for us. Often we have physical symptoms of anxiety because we physically experience them, anxiety in and through our body. We may experience rapid breathing, like I am right now. Feeling like you're not getting enough air into your lungs, sweating, dizziness, lightheadedness, insomnia, a headache, poor concentration, shaking, nausea, and a knot in your stomach. And so to address anxiety, it's a two-prong approach. Is that how you say it? Two-prong approach, okay? One, you can address it through by calming the body down, all right? And then at the same time, addressing your thoughts and the distorted thoughts. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about both, okay? So when it comes to techniques to calming your body down, and these are going to seem very simple, but they're incredibly effective. One of them is deep breathing. It's a very real and effective way of managing anxiety. When we are really excited, when your heart is racing a lot, our breaths becomes very shallow, okay? So the objective of deep breathing is to take deep breaths that expand the stomach and stomach out so that we can loosen all the muscles in our chest. Deep breathing allows us to access the lower chambers in our lungs, which we access when we do exercise, which is why after we do exercise, we feel kind of calm and relaxed, which serves as a natural tranquilizer. So when we access these lower chambers in our lungs, it serves as a natural tranquilizer. So an easy example as to how to do deep breathing is you do 6 seconds in through your nose, where you're counting 6 seconds, breathing in through your nose, and then 6 seconds out through your mouth. Controlling how fast you're breathing in and how fast you're breathing out is a great way and a very effective way of managing your anxiety. Another technique I often use, and over time I've gotten better at using it, is called the pelvic relaxation technique, which the pelvic bone in your body that looks kind of like this, it's where your butt is, right? So if you focus on your pelvic bone, and you think about, it's easier to do when you're sitting down. When you're standing, it's a little harder. So you focus on your pelvic bone, and you relax that bone, and it's connected to your spinal cord, which will immediately relax the rest, all the other muscles in the spinal cord. All right. So when we are experiencing a lot of anxiety, we are in our heads. We are all wrapped up in our thoughts, okay? And we become completely disconnected from what's going on in our bodies, and often are unaware that these symptoms that come with anxiety are happening in our bodies. By focusing our attention onto the body, it automatically gets us out of our heads, which lessens our anxiety. Now we're going to address the thoughts that significantly contribute and trigger our anxiety. So, cognition, okay, is the influence that refers to all negative thoughts we have when we experience anxiety. This is also known as automatic thoughts. And automatic thoughts occur so immediately, naturally, and habitually that we don't recognize them as distorted. Rather, we accept them as true. So these common thinking patterns lead and feed our anxiety. To correct our thinking, we have to access 3 parts of the brain. So the emotional part of the brain, which usually becomes hijacked when we're anxious, and it's responsible for strong emotions. The language part of the brain, which activated when we try to describe the experience causing the emotional brain to be less active. So when we start talking to someone about about our anxiety or what's making us so anxious, it will immediately help calm us down because we're putting words and vocalizing these crazy thoughts that are in our head. And by doing so, it allows us to then access the problem-solving part of the brain to resolve whatever's making us anxious. Okay. Do you want to?
Are you done?
Yeah?
Okay.
Oh, no, I have a little more.
Oh, okay.
Okay, is that all right? Yeah?
No, of course. I thought you were.
Oh, okay. No, I was just checking to see. Okay. So next, I'm going to describe frequently used distorted automatic thoughts and then strategies towards combating them. So it's important to know that if, as I describe these things, you think, oh, I do that, and I definitely do that one, and then that makes you anxious, right? Don't let that make you anxious because these are things that everybody does, and so it kind of normalizes these things that are going on in our heads. So the first one, it's called fortune telling. It is when we predict something bad is going to happen before it even does. I'm going to give you an example. Me thinking on Monday, I'm going to bomb this presentation, okay? Okay. So then the strategy, or like you're going to bomb your finals, okay? So the strategy or the antidote towards addressing this is to question yourself until you clearly identify what the bad event is. And then, so in this case, it was me bombing this presentation. And then you challenge that negative thought by, in this case, let's say, I haven't done this presentation yet, so how can I predict in the future whether or not I'm going to bomb it because it hasn't happened yet? I can't read the future. Another thing is called all or nothing thinking. And things are either, all or nothing thinking is either everything's black or white. So things are either perfect or a disaster. And this contributes to our anxiety by making us feel that everything must turn out absolutely perfect, and anything less than that would be a complete catastrophe. The response to this kind of thought process is to ask yourself, what are the real consequences if things don't turn out perfectly? And how can I cope with these consequences? And let me see. Another big one, should statements. So when people find themselves thinking in terms of I should or shouldn't or ought, like I shouldn't be doing this or he shouldn't be doing that, right? Okay. Such statements immediately induce unnecessary guilt because we should or ought to or must have to be different. So the strategy or the antidote to this is to substitute should statements with phrases such as, it would be nice if, or where was I? I wish, let's say if you, like I shouldn't be sad, and then you think to yourself, well, I wish I wasn't sad. That feels different. And so it might seem like a subtle difference, but a slight change in wording can change the intensity of your feelings. Now, lastly, before I pass the baton over to Tracy, okay, the third and most significant aspect of anxiety is the behavioral side, okay? Because we allow fear to control our lives. Because anxiety feels so uncomfortable, we tend to avoid situations that make us anxious to not feel it. And this may seem like a reasonable thing to do, but the reality is that avoidance only makes the anxiety grow worse. And then the more things that we avoid, the more you avoid something, the more likely you are to start avoiding more things over time. And it makes your world kind of grow smaller and smaller. So what's key here is that avoidance only makes anxiety worse. You must do the things that make you so afraid to overcome that fear. And to overcome those fears, it's good to do it quickly, which often points to an important truth, that is, thinking that is thinking about something is much worse than actually doing it. Like me, thinking about this presentation is a lot worse than actually doing it. Yeah. So up next, Tracy's going to talk to us about mindfulness.
Thank you, and you're so right. That anticipation is what gives me the most anxiety always. One of the ways that we have kind of learned that we can deal with anxiety in a really healthy way is to really develop the skill of mindfulness. And I'm just going to talk about that for a minute. Mindfulness is it's having this awareness of the present moment, right here, with acceptance and non-judgment. And I want to stress that this is a practice where we are being mindful. We are not trying to be mindless or emptying our minds, anything like that. We are really tuning into what is happening here and now. In practicing mindfulness, we are turning our attention to the moment. We are looking at the moment-by-moment reality of time and space. And we are really tuning in to knowing that God is right here with us. And I have this quote, to escape the distress caused by regret for the past or fear about the future, this is the rule to follow. Leave the past to the infinite mercy of God, the future to his good providence, and give the present wholly to his love by being faithful to his grace. And that's a quote from Jean-Pierre de Caussade, and he has this book called Abandonment to Divine Providence. And that's kind of what the practice of mindfulness is going to really help you do. It's going to help you be more open to God's will in your life, moment by moment. So as you're developing the skill of mindfulness, and it's like a habit of being intentionally present, and when you can develop the skill, you can get a little bit of space, a little bit of cushion in between like your soul, yourself, and whatever critical thoughts are going on up in here, because that's, for me at least, what leads to a lot of anxiety. And in that little bit of space, we can discover that freedom to really access our gift of free will. And then we can decide what kind of behavior we're going to engage in. And, you know, whether that's actually coming and doing this presentation that we didn't want to do. Also, it can include rumination, because that's a behavior as well. When we choose to focus and worry and concern ourselves over and over and over about something, that's also a behavior. So, and as Alicia said, stress and anxiety will feed anxiety. And so many times you'll just get stuck and you're just going deeper and deeper and deeper. And the more that you can practice grounding yourself, the less power that those cognitive distortions and critical thoughts are going to have on you. So I'm going to go through a few of these like different ways you can practice mindfulness, and then we're going to do an actual practice here, a little mindful meditation. So one idea is called the mindfulness of routine, and basically the idea here is that you take just as something that you do every day, something that is very routine, like brushing your teeth, and you choose right before, you know, I'm deciding to brush my teeth, okay, I'm going to be really present in this moment. And so as you're brushing your teeth, you really open your senses and you focus on the act of brushing your teeth. You focus on the smells. Maybe you breathe in the mintiness. You let it come into your nose. You feel that. And you might feel the tingling in your mouth of the toothpaste. You really pay attention to the feel of the bristles on your teeth and on your gums. And it really just slows down your world, and it keeps you from, you know, you really have that experience of being present in the moment. And you can do that with, you know, pretty much anything. But everybody should be brushing their teeth, so that's a good example. Also, let's see, I've got a couple more here. So here's one, it's called the heroic minute. When you're in times of stress and anxiety, it can be very, very attractive to just hit the snooze button when that alarm goes off. And maybe you don't even actually go back to sleep, but you're just laying in bed ruminating, like you're half awake and you're just like, and you're trying not to get up. So when you're in times of seasons of more stress, I really challenge you to like make yourself get up when that alarm goes off. And it doesn't mean you have to like hit the ground running, but even if you just roll out of bed and like lay on the floor or something, like just get out of bed. Because the moment you get out of bed, you're doing something else. You're getting out of your head. And you know, you'll eventually wake up at some point after that. And it's just such a waste of time to lay in bed half awake and be worrying about your day. Okay, another idea is to take a sacramental pause during the day. And this is just kind of setting aside some time for yourself during the day. Maybe put an alarm on your phone or something where you just take a second and just check in with yourself. Hey, you know, how am I doing right now? What am I thinking about? Where is my attention right now? And is it helpful what I'm thinking about right now? Am I worrying? Am I ruminating? What is at stake here? Am I safe right here in this moment? And kind of redirect yourself. What do I need to be paying attention to? Get really curious. What am I feeling? Why? What's going on? And if you do happen to notice some rumination, well, take a chance, take a chance to check in and say, why am I feeling this? And be merciful. Like, oh, I feel kind of sick to my stomach. Well, what am I thinking about? And just give yourself a little bit of kindness in that moment. You can also redirect yourself, like, okay, I need to be thinking about something else. You can say a short prayer, Jesus, I trust in you, and just do the next thing. You could listen to music. That's always a really helpful thing. Okay, this is a hard one. The next one is, if you find yourself feeling really stressed and anxiety and having lots of anxiety, one of the key things is to start to decrease your attention to technology. We all know that it's not helpful, even though it seems so attractive in the moment. If you can decrease your technology use, you will have some immediate relief right there. And I was also going to say the breath work, like Alicia mentioned. That's really helpful. And while you're doing that breathing, you can really focus on the sensations of the breath coming in and then exhaling, and kind of feel it coming in through your body and out. And so now we're going to practice that a little bit. I'm going to lead you in a little present moment exercise. And this is something that we're going to practice right here, and then you can do it whenever you want back at home. All right, so we're going to get started. And the first step is to you can either stand or sit. We're probably going to stay sitting. And just allow your eyes to close and kind of get comfortable sitting in your seat, paying close attention. Go ahead and turn your attention back to your breath as you are inhaling and exhaling. And now call to mind the presence of God and know that He is right here with us. And know that He is willing every inhale and every exhale that you're taking. Ask Him to help you recognize His presence right here and right now. Now I invite you to bring your awareness to your physical body. Focus on places of contact between your body and what is supporting it. Can you feel the wood behind you and under you? Can you feel the floor beneath your feet? Can you feel your hands resting on your thighs or on the wood beside you? And as we're doing this, thoughts will come into your mind, and you can acknowledge them briefly and then just gently turn your focus back to your physical body and all of the sensations present there. And now we're going to begin to move your sensory focus to different parts of your body one at a time. And we're going to spend about 5 seconds. So we're going to start, see if you can feel your left toes. Really focus on your left toes. What do you feel around them? What are they touching? Now draw your awareness gently up your lower leg and then your entire leg, and move up through your hip. And now feel your right toes. And gently draw your awareness up your right leg, all the way up to your hips. And now expand your awareness. Feel the awareness drawing up your spine, moving back up over your neck, your head, into your shoulders, taking a deep breath. Sit in this expanded awareness of your whole body, knowing that you are a wholeness of body and soul. All of this is you, a beloved creation of Lord. Now bring your awareness down to the center of your body, to your heart. Feel the sensations of your breath moving in and out. And as we're doing this, try not to control your breath. Just be an observer. And again, thoughts might drift in, and that's okay. Just gently escort your focus back to the sensations of the breath coming in and then out. Try to follow one whole breath in and then out. And as our exercise ends, we're going to thank God. Thank Him for this rest. We're going to ask Him to help us remember His loving presence is with us moment by moment and breath by breath, and we are never alone. And come on back. And that's pretty much it. So we're going to open up the floor to some Q&A, but first, does anybody have any experience of the meditation? How was it? Was it good? Was it hard? Easy? Good? Okay, good. Oh, yeah, good. All right, you ready for some questions? Okay. Yes.
Can you repeat the question again? So I can repeat it. Yes. Yeah. Well, there's often a balance between the two, right? Between being safe, but not isolating your world completely. And there's often a temptation, this all or nothing thinking, to turn to the extremes, to either be, having fun at bars or to be super isolated and alone, right? So it's up to each person to kind of figure out what the balance is between the two. Because your anxiety will skyrocket if you're alone all the time. And I don't know if you'd add anything to that.
I think that's absolutely true, is just to find a balance. And, the other question, it sounded like you had a question just about technology use and like how do you decrease that when we're actually like more dependent on technology right now? And I would say that, if we're being honest, a lot of our technology use is non-essential. So obviously you need to monitor yourself and be like, sometimes I need to use my technology. It's important, and honestly, it can be a really great way to stay connected. I'm grateful that we've had technology during this pandemic, but I also know that I tend to turn to my phone or technology use when I don't really have to. That, like I'm thinking it's gonna make me, I don't know, like pass the time or alleviate my own anxiety. And so it's just something I have to be mindful of. I have to monitor myself with that. So, good question. Thank you. So I think the question is how do we know if a thought is a thought maybe from God or from ourselves or maybe from some other place? Well, that's a really difficult question. Thanks. I'm not going to be able to really answer that tonight. But I think the first thing you need to do is, you can kind of test that out. Like, what does this voice sound like? Is it kind and nice and gentle and loving, like a good father? Or is it critical and merciless, and it doesn't really feel that good? And I think that's a good indicator right there on, is this something, should I be listening to this or not? Like, is this something that's going to be helpful for me? That's not to say that the Lord doesn't convict us, but it's not done in a demeaning or hurtful or critical way. And I also think that if that's something that you're struggling with consistently, that you need to reach out to some spiritual advisement. So, okay. Like, it's sacrament with like a little s. Not a big S, sacramental. Yeah, sort of, like, and taking care of yourself, checking in with yourself, and taking time to get curious and know that you're important. And that's what I meant. Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate that question. It's very helpful. So is the question, if you have a friend who's feeling anxious, kind of what you can do? Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, I would help bring them into the room. Okay, so when we're anxious, we all are up in our head. So ask them questions that engage the senses. For an example, how many windows are in this room? What's the color of the floor, right? Can you count the corners on that portrait? So you're doing things that force them to get out of their head and have to, count 1, 2, 3, or through the senses. So asking them to smell an orange, or this is always helpful, like to hold a really cold bottle of water, just to get them to get through the body, get you out of your head. You're welcome.
Look, let's let Alicia answer it. Maybe that's probably best. So, I think Ryan is asking, is there ever a danger of being too mindful? Like, you're too in the present? Is that not what you're asking? What are you trying to ask? I don't understand. Like about. Well, I don't think there's ever a problem with abstract thinking or planning or anything like that until there is, right? So we've all had that experience where we can plan, we can think about the future, you can dream, you can hope. That's exciting and good. I think, though, that we all have that experience where, and then it's not. It becomes something that is consuming and that we worry about, and we know the difference. Like, I can feel it, and I can even be thinking about something really great, and then it can shift, into being unhelpful. So I think that when you're really practicing knowing yourself and getting curious, you'll start to notice that shift. And the better that you get at that, and the more you practice, the earlier you'll be able to pull yourself back from that and not go there. I don't know. Does that answer your question? Okay.
And I would piggyback on that. Often, like for example, dreaming. Like people who love to dream and fantasize about the future, right? That's a wonderful thing. But when you find yourself living in these dreams about fantasizing about when that future event, it keeps you from living in the present. And it's funny because the church always teaches all about moderation, right? So it's not all one or all the other, but allowing yourself the space to be able to dream and yet at the same time also experience moments where you're present in the moment. Yeah. Rachel. Well, anxiety is a part of the human condition, right? It's a part of the gamut of emotions that we feel. And it's funny, the Bible says, I think it's 364 or 365 times, depending on your translation, do not be afraid, right? Jesus says that. So he's trying to tell us that, gives us one for every day of the year. And I have to think that tells me he knows that we're going to be afraid, right? So, and to know that that's okay that we will be, but we don't need to be. But it almost acknowledges and kind of, it feels to me like it validates that human reality and that it's a part of being human.
That's a good question, because you're right. Sometimes anxiety and stress is good. It's a good motivator. It helps you stay prepared. Maybe you have to study for a test or something, and you should be studying. I think that, of course, as you get to know your body and yourself a little bit better and your emotions, that will help you. But one of the things that some symptoms that you might be experiencing of stress, that you might notice the symptoms before you notice where it's coming from, right? So you might notice that you are having a lot of critical thoughts about yourself. Like, you're able to do your stuff, you don't feel anxious, and yet you've got this, voice in your head telling you, how bad you're doing, or you're not doing enough, or you need to work harder, something like that. You also might notice some other physical symptoms of stress, like you might have loss or more appetite, like changes in appetite, changes in sleeping. There are other symptoms, like you might get some back pain. Sometimes there are people that are just super, super stressed, and I don't feel anxious, but they have, terrible stomach issues. So those are also indicators that you might be operating at a level of stress that's unhealthy. Is that helpful? Okay.
And
All right.
I would add to that, that often people who, when you are used to living in chronic anxiety, right? Okay. And you try to do things to calm yourself down, or you try to do these exercises to bring mindfulness and to calm yourself down, to ease your anxiety, or you're on vacation at the beach with no need to worry whatsoever, and yet you're still worried. Because often our bodies get so used to that adrenaline, right, that it becomes very difficult for us to kind of calm our bodies down because we almost become just, that becomes a new way of normal. Yeah. And so in those cases, I would suggest medication can be incredibly helpful because it can help your body kind of, the chemicals in your brain to balance back and ease out. Yeah. Yes.
Strategies to know your own weaknesses, to be able to recognize and avoid anxiety through them. Yeah, just like, you guys have any practical advice on like coming to know yourself, like an intentional way, rather than just making one mistakes?
Well, I think one idea that might work is that when you're doing that daily check-in, you're kind of like you're that's a time to get to know yourself. You're kind of thinking, you're checking in with yourself, and it's not just about what are your thoughts, what are going on. You might even do like a body scan. You might be like, am I tense? What am I feeling? Is my back hurting? Do I have a headache? Things like that. And another good way to kind of track that would be to keep a journal. I think journaling is one way we can really get to know ourselves better and know kind of like, well, what are my tendencies? Where do I tend to go when things are getting tight around school or at home? I can look back at that and start to kind of see my patterns. So that's a good tip. You got any more?
Also, when you kind of are anxious, you're more likely to stop doing self-care things like, let's say you like working out. You might find yourself not working out anymore, or not working out as often, or not hanging out with your friends as often because you're more stressed out. So those can also be other helpful cues that something's up or I need to slow down a bit.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you guys so much for your talks and your advice. We appreciate it a lot. That being said, tonight we are not going to be doing small groups. Instead, we would like to encourage you, if you're somebody who struggles with any kind of mental health, be it stress, anxiety, depression, eating disorders, find a friend, tell them about it. Just be vulnerable with somebody tonight. If you need, I'm sure both of them would be happy to talk to you for a quick second, give you some quick advice. Father Fred, Father Brian are both always open to emails. Just feel free to email them and let them know what's going on in your life. They both love it, and they've always been super helpful whenever I need them. With all that being said, thank you guys so much for coming to the last Arch of the semester. We will not be having Arch after Thanksgiving break, but we will be coming back strong next semester, talking about a lot of topics like spiritual warfare and charismatic gifts, a lot of really cool topics. If any of you guys have any topics that you want discussed, please come find Madeline or myself. We're still working out our schedule, and we can find a few good topics to fit in there. With that being said, thank you all for coming, and have a great rest of your night.